My name is Rosemary Adams, a volunteer bush regenerator in this area, Wyargine Point, involved in the Mosman Parks and Bushland Association, and it was the project that was going to damage Wyargine that introduced me to Mosman Parks and Bushland Association. I had retired, I joined it, and now I'm its secretary and have been for probably 10 years. Wyargine, which is just up from the beautiful Balmoral Beach and below all these houses in Burren Avenue, was in two parts. One part was a protective zone and the rest, really, a lot of things could have happened on it, including the proposal for the driveway to extend from Stanton Road and the unmade road and up to the dwelling that's the first dwelling you can see up here. Well, you can't see it because there's so much bush. The community was really upset and council said, no, we won't allow it. This guy had been trying for over 20 years to get this driveway. It ended up in the Land and Environment Court and the judge said, no, I'm not going to allow this. But of course, without a change in the zoning, there could have been lots of other applications lodged in the future. So council then went through the process of rezoning the land so that this back section of Wyargine was protected in the same way as the front. We were then, Mosman Parks and Bushland Association was then invited to volunteer to do bush regeneration here.
The judge actually said in his judgment, and I am sure this piece of land will be restored once the Bushland groups get back to work here.
Yeah.
And here we still are, 12 years later.
It's been what I call a generous site because every bit of work we've done, it's said thank you, thank you, thank you, and it's come back and given us great joy. And all the people heading down here to the beach, they comment all the time, don't they, Kate? And we say, oh, do you want to join us?
But another interesting thing about this reserve, isn't it, is that poison has been forbidden here.
Yes.
So we are using the Bradley method entirely.
You can come with all sorts of problems in your head and you go home feeling, terrific. Yeah. If you go up to the lookout just there, you can see North Head and you can see Middle Head, and South Head, of course, is just over there behind Middle Head. So Balmoral Beach is a harbour beach in Sydney, 8 to 10 kilometres from the city. It's very popular, but a lot of people who come from other parts of the world where the surf is a bit daunting for them find Balmoral a very happy place to come. Mosman Parks and Bushland really is trying to keep all this bushland as much as we can. It's a very sought after place to buy a house. The prices, like everywhere else, have really become unaffordable, and we're getting more densely developed. And the more people that live here, the more these open spaces are so important. In COVID, we all realised how important our open spaces were. Our council's been fantastic in supporting us and providing paid bush regenerators. We work with them. As you're on the water, it's lovely to look back and see these open spaces because they break up the built environment so well and provide that lovely relief and joy that you get from seeing the bush. It's been disturbed over many years, of course. There was an orchard on part of it at one point. We understand there was Indigenous settlement here in the earliest days. As far as fauna, there are possums, there are brush turkeys now, and they love getting in here and making their mounds. And they do a great job of getting rid of the Tradescantia, actually. We saw the silver eye earlier. There's something whistling. Things are changing. The bushland's been really good in that a lot of the little plants are coming up. Brainias are coming up, Banksia's coming up, little ones. We just spy them every now and again when we're doing our bush regeneration. We apply the Bradley method where we only do as much as we think we can manage to do. Little fish have to be sweet. It would have been much more weed infested. I mean, it's an important area now. It's more publicly accessible and aware in a knowledgeable way. I mean, it's always been publicly accessible. Because it's part of the Bondi to Manly walk, people are coming through all the time. And lots of people walk down to the beach down the other pathway, it just would have deteriorated. Mosman has a whole lot of unmade roads, odd situations, and a lot of them are near bushland. The owner of a house on Byron Avenue, but low down on Byron Avenue, but just above Wyargine, wanted to create a driveway. He would have been allowed to do it, but it was a pretty terrible proposal and it was going to be so damaging. It would have taken a huge engineering exercise because of the topography and the waterways. You know, there are 3 waterways coming in. The council, in its wisdom, refused to allow the development, and it went to court and the court said no. But the court also said there's room here for improvement. Before the land, part of Wyargine had been protected with a zoning that made sure it was looked after, but the back section of Wyargine, which is where this unmade road was and where this proposal for the driveway was not. So it's now all been rezoned for the same purpose, protecting it, ensuring that for future generations we have this piece of open space. Bush regenerators are of a certain age. You know, we're retired, we have some time. There'll come a time when we're not able to do it anymore. So we need fresh blood, but people are so busy. Lives have never been busier. The other thing that's a problem, and it's a bit of a hobby horse of mine, is what I call the bush beyond your backyard. In other words, people need to recognise that what's going on in their own gardens has significant implications for the bushland. And you don't have to be right next to the bushland, although obviously if you're a neighbour to the bushland, you've got more of a role to play in trying to plant in a way that is harmonious and doesn't have potential to damage. Because stormwater drains are running through all these places, and you could see there was a large stormwater drain coming in a couple of directions into Wyargine, you know, seeds can be transported through the stormwater system into these areas, and you can get a lot of plants that you shouldn't have that have found their source from a garden, not necessarily next door. In the Mosman Parks and Bushland Association, thinking about a project that looks at the bush beyond your backyard and to try and give people more information about plants to avoid and plants to choose. Climate change is a big issue, and of course big rains and then big dries. I mean, the rains can, you know, bring all those seeds and in a very strong way if the flow's strong. The public space has never been more important. I can remember there's a little park down at Mosman Bay, and it's a tiny little park, and the Mosman Rowers Club wanted to extend onto it. And in the beginning, I think people thought, oh, it's just a little bit, you know. And we went to the council meeting and spoke to council and said, the fact that it's such a little park, so close to so many places, is why it must be kept. It's turned out it's an historic park. You can come to a little corner of the world and it's meditative almost to pull out weeds. And it's good. And the companionship of friends who have a shared love and commitment, it's very good. I would love to see all the weeds gone, animals and birds coming back, and for the community to start to realise the way in which the community in general can support these areas, again, by looking at their own backyards. The wonder of what's in the natural world is just a fantastic thing for kids to do, to go on bushwalks and maybe camping. So many kids will be living in very dense accommodation now and in the future. It's happening now. So it's really important for them to get out of the concrete jungle and into something else. We need to offer them good quality something else too, so they really appreciate it. When we first began work in Wyargine 12 years ago, there was a real lot of Earharter weed. I used to call myself the Earharter Queen because that's what I focused on. I was new, I had to learn what the weeds were, But I knew what Earharta was, and so that was my focus. And as time went on, the Earharta was replaced with Microlina, which looks very similar, but is the most beautiful grass. It's just sort of elegant and, it's just gorgeous. Sometimes you just be so beavering away on the spot that you don't stand back and look. And we all just looked at what had happened, and the Earharta was basically gone, and Microlina was flourishing and coming up and saying thank you. It was one of those moments where you just loved the sight, and you loved the fact that you'd enabled this beauty just through digging out weeds.